I have been trying, and a lot of the args here that kind of focus on sustainability are, sad to say, very just lightly top surface to me.
Speak on that, because I think I agree, but I need to hear more.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, like let's go on like luxury trips, and I'm like, we can go on luxury trips, like check in nature or whatever, but there's also a very more important part to sustainability that is very linked to activism and climate change. And so you can't address luxury first before people already have this idea of sustainability as a luxury experience. And so you can't overly touch on it being a luxury experience before you actually tackle what the people that are being affected,
Right.
making people know that
Right.
before it becomes luxury, before it becomes bamboo toothbrushes and like beeswax and brown paper bags. Before it becomes that, it's also natural disasters, and it's also people suffering. It's also lack of
Yeah.
equity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other factors that sustainability is linked to first before it branches off into something that is luxury.
Yeah.
That's just what I think. And so as an organization, you need to make the campus understand that, or at least try to strongly link luxury and sustainability. Luxury, I'm using it loosely, but
To some people, that's luxury,
Yes,
though. To the
that
people
is.
who are like most affected by climate change.
I think it's luxury because I didn't grow up like this. Understand? So the bamboo toothbrushes and all that meant nothing to me before I came here, and I was already interested in sustainability, but that didn't hold weight until I came here, and I was just like, oh, so this is what y'all call sustainability. Gotcha,
So
cool.
what does it mean to you?
I mean, to me, it means, well, before I was into sustainability, I was kind of like an egalitarian. I was very interested in women's rights and that kind of thing. And so when I saw that sustainability was linked a lot to climate change and how women are linked to that, and how people are linked to that, and how equity is linked to that, it became that much more of an interest. Energy, equity, and pollution,
Yeah.
like hardcore pollution. Yeah, when I realized that all those things are intertwined and it's connected, it became that much more of a reality to me. So the bamboo toothbrushes never had as much as an impact. That was an afterthought.
Yeah. So whenever you speak about you're from Guyana, right?
Mhm.
So you not being from the U.S. does change your perspective on sustainability.
It does.
And so, like, when you say, like, there's all of these linkages, do you have any specific ones that you can name? Like, sustainability and women's rights, sustainability and pollution, natural
Yes.
disasters.
I'm going to start off with sustainability and volunteerism. I think there's a huge, people misunderstand how sustainability is linked to civic duty. The place that you're from, you kind of owe yourself to where you're from. So to Guyana, which is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in sustainability and civil engineering, is that I think that I kind of owe my country that homage. I'm patriotic. That part of me is patriotic to where I'm from, and even deeper into my community and from the kind of the ghetto part of Guyana, which is Sufiyum. I owe kind of Sufiyum that sustainable infrastructure. I think that I can do that with my education, my knowledge, and so I just think that that's linked. So sustainability and volunteerism, sustainability in women. Well, last week I actually had, or the week before, I had a talk with a next Howard student about how women in the Caribbean are linked to climate change. And a lot of the times women are on the forefront of the climate change movement. Not only the ones being impacted, because a lot of them don't have jobs, they're at home, they're taking care of the children, they have to walk back and forth when there's no water, when there's droughts. They're doing a lot of the caretaking, and so they are kind of like the frontline community before anybody else for the climate change movement. And then we're also a lot of the advocates for climate change, like Greta Thunberg. A lot of women are the face of the climate change movement. I also link sustainability with equity, because I understand equity in fullest sense means taking account and being knowledgeable that communities, everybody's not on the same level. Everybody's at the same starting level. And so some communities are disadvantaged. They're next to large manufacturing companies that are producing a lot of greenhouse gases that are affecting their health and that kind of thing. I understand that everybody's not at the same starting stage. Somebody that living in a privileged community that is not near a landmine or something like that, they're starting off at they have a total different look on what it means to be sustainable.
Right.
And so I understand that. I'd also like to link sustainability to, well, obviously it's linked to climate change, because natural disasters and just the change of the climate right now with global warming is a very real thing. Sustainability provides an avenue to change that through renewable sources, renewable energy sources, and a lot of other new technologies, a lot of other things that we could do, change our lifestyles, the way we eat, and just holistically the way that we think about our relationship to the world.
Yes.
And to the earth, to the environment. And so just living sustainably is very important. And next link, I'm going on and on here.
No, keep going.
And next link for me, because I'm studying civil engineering, would be infrastructure. And the places that we live, the ground that we walk on, everything is kind of intertwined with sustainability. And it's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do civil engineering, because it would give me kind of that power and the knowledge grounds to use technique and my education to create sustainable infrastructure. Sustainability doesn't mean exactly going back to grassroots and living in wooden houses or straw houses. It could also mean building.
All of those links are like
buildings, like living buildings
and
that don't affect the environment, but that
talk about. I want to talk about
that live
the main thing
symbiotically
that you talked
with the
about was
environment.
like the difference
It doesn't
between
affect the
sustainability and
environment.
climate
It's
change.
positive towards
That's
the
not
environment.
common knowledge.
And so
Even
I
a
think
lot
that
of people
have
that I've
a hand in
interviewed
that.
were saying that climate change was the same as sustainability.
It's not.
It's not. But like me, like I grew up in a community, like I grew up on an island in Texas. And so because of racism and because of like the inequity of like the economic system, I lived in a community that was more directly affected by fracking and by like oil mining in our beach.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I would talk about like how in past interviews I would talk about like how our lifestyles were like intrinsically sustainable because like we had to offset like our inequality, not only like because we lived in like a negatively affected neighborhood, but because we had less money, because we had less resources, we had to make the most out of what we did. And so like if everyone kind of had that same mindset, like okay, even though we're not all starting at the same like starting point, but what we do have, like we try to make the most out of it and try to be like more sustainable, reduce, reuse, recycle, like focus on those points, then that would offset like the climate change and like the negative effects that big companies or people who are like who have more power, like that would kind of offset the way that they impact our communities. And so yeah, that's like a big thing that we've been talking about in these interviews. And then another thing that you connected was like infrastructure and sustainability. So like I had an internship in commercial real estate, and I got the chance to like be on the team that developed a property. So they went into this big forest. You know, when they first showed me it, it was just trees. We went back about a month ago, no trees. I would say literally like I would say it was probably about 4 acres of trees that they deforested, pulled out of the ground.
Wow.
Then I went back a month later, covered in cement.
That's crazy.
It broke my heart. So like I kind of got into like researching, okay, what is like a more sustainable way for us to like build these properties, like develop these places of community that wouldn't like negatively impact our environment. And I from that like I learned about the different solutions there are. So why do you think that these companies don't take advantage of those solutions?
I think that in the most basic terms, it means going the extra step, going the extra mile. For example, like LEED certifications, Living Building Challenge, a lot of those things have other stipulations added to them. Companies are not going to add a next thing onto their budget, not onto their list, to satisfy sustainable requirements.
right.
of people that don't really care about the environment like that. They don't see that as a priority because it doesn't economically benefit them. Like, that's just the end all. They will not go the extra mile unless it is a stipulation.
That was something that Clarissa brought up because she wants to go into environmental law. I asked her the question, do you think that policy or law influence culture, or do you think culture influences policy and laws?
I think that policy is weird. I don't think that policy really influences culture. People don't like to be binded to anything. Does culture influence policy? Well, right now there's a trendy like green culture, green this, kind of like, what do they call it?
Greenwashing?
Green labeling.
Green labeling, yeah.
As much as that helps in some regard to people that buy like the bamboo toothbrushes, right? Sorry for coming for the bamboo toothbrushes, but
it's the best example though.
It's the best example.
Yes.
And the little green bags, so kind of like green stuff. That doesn't actually do anything. Like, on the larger scale, it's not doing much unless it's combined with a bunch of other efforts.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so, picking up a green bag and things that are greenwashed and things that say, oh, this is healthy just because it's in the color green, doesn't influence policy.
Yeah.
I don't think that senators are looking and like, oh my gosh, everybody's wearing green stuff, we have to go green. No, like, they're not going to do that. But if they do bind them by policy and by law and say, well, you can't use, like in California, you're like, you can't use this type of pesticide because it influences the stormwater runoff. And then that influences the lakes and the algae and everything else and just throws the whole ecosystem off, then they can't do it. And so policy has a heavier stance and a heavier hand on culture.
I would say you made me change my answer.
Really?
I originally said that culture influences policy. And that's because culture influences businesses. And like with businesses being like the most powerful like entities in the US,
That's true.
those like their actions directly influence policy. So that was my hypothesis at first, but after hearing from you, policies have a strong hand over big corporations. But there's this movement right now where big businesses, like, they're at the forefront of this like climate change, the fight against climate change. And like they're even like going past the policies that have been put on them to like show us consumers that they care about the environment. So I mean, like, I guess it's a loaded question.
I think that when businesses know that people are watching, they will make an impact. Can businesses and like large companies actually care? Yes. They're making an effort to make things equitable.
Yeah.
They're making an effort to make sure it's diversified and that everybody has an equal say. They are making an effort, but I'm not sure that everybody else is doing that.
Yeah, they're not. I read an article the other day that said like it was just like they just ended they just stopped making AI for oil mining companies.
Wow.
So they're like, we're pulling out of that, even though it makes us billions of dollars, it's not good for the environment. And they hope that well, they didn't say that, but I assume that they hope that other companies follow suit. But even though they stopped making AI for these mega companies, they're still intertwined in the oil and gas industry. They said they have legacy contracts where they do other stuff for these oil and gas businesses. So I feel like it's just so deep.
It is deep and it's complicated, and even like with the case of it's on us to remember that it's much deeper than just pulling out of contract. Like, as I said, they have like legacy contracts. Like, a lot of companies are so deep. As I said, they literally have legacy contracts.
Yes.
Like, it will go on forever and ever. And so it's hard to stop that.
Yes, signing for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Like, even like when I want to go back to my internship, like in commercial real estate, like we would sign contracts for 25 years minimum. Literally, like, people would come and like build their store and then have their store there for like 20 years, and then after that lease is up and then they start a new lease. So I don't see like any of those being like terminated unless policy comes into place.
Yeah.
So would you say that we need more environmental policy
Yes.
to promote sustainability?
Yes. And yes again.
Like, what kind of policies would you like to see from a civil engineering perspective?
Not just for America, but for Guyana. I want to see policy that is targeted towards sustainability, like direct targets, not things that will offset stuff. Direct targets. You can't use. There's this thing. I think for the Living Building Challenge, they use like a red list of chemicals that you can't use. Find another way. Like literally find another way. If you know it's going to affect things on a larger scale, find the next way. The standards that we have with pollution, get rid of it. Like companies can't emit this amount of greenhouse gases. That's it. If you do that, you're out of business. You terminate it. Simple. And in those ways, people have a choice but to comply.
Right, because it's like, well,
yeah,
I want to stay in business.
Yeah.
So you don't think that capitalism has to be affected by us like having more sustainable policies?
The thing is, I think that capitalism will always reign free. I think that it's too late, even though I think that capitalism affects us a lot. I think it's almost too late for us to stop that. People will not stop buying clothes. They will not stop building. They will not stop buying products. Those things will continue. We can't just press a pause button on the world and be like, oh, well, everybody stop doing this right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that. But I do think that there are regulations and policies that we could put in place to kind of shift the scene and what climate change actually looks like.
Yeah, like, I like what you said about that, because like it is unrealistic to like just stop capitalism, to stop like our way of life. It's easier to just like implement policies that will kind of change it. And a lot of people that I interviewed said that like capitalism is the root of all these issues.
Yeah, but I think that sometimes people forget that capitalism can be good and bad. A lot of the products and technologies that are being invented are by people that run capitalist systems. Yep. A lot of those solar technologies is not by some people on the road like rubbing things together. No. Real true change for right now, the state of the world we're in right now, is developed by a lot of capitalist technologies.
Yeah.
And so we can't deny that. We can't say, oh well, technology can just jump out to the air. Like biomimicry is by people that have that kind of influence, that have access to the knowledge, the technology, that power, science,
resources, all of that. Yep.
Yes. And so we can't deny that.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think.
Yeah, and I feel like your perspective might be different because you're not from the U.S. and like you haven't grown up in capitalism. And also like me, like when I travel outside of the U.S., I see how like beneficial capitalism has been to our population, like Americans in general, but specifically like African Americans. Like being black but also being from America still puts you at a position to like make change and innovate and grow and elevate.
It does.
Than being like a black person outside of the U.S.
It does.
Yeah.
To a crazy extent. You would not believe.
Really?
Yes.
Like how much of an extent?
You guys have access here. The access that you guys have here is crazy.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to come here, for sustainability. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to come to this country in particular. People are like, oh, you can study English, you can study in Canada. I was like, no. America has the most access, and that's what I need right now.
Is sustainability like even a topic that people talk about in Guyana?
They do.
Okay.
They do. I was talking to the last interview that I had. I was telling the girl, I was like, the difference between here and in Guyana is that in Guyana there's much tighter bonds. So the people that are interested in sustainability over there, me and them, like I know them, they're my friends, and we connect very easily because we have a good understanding of what sustainability looks like in Guyana and what we want to see.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a partnering effort. Here, people are a bit more commercial.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a, let me shake your hand from over there. There's distance in the way we think. America's a lot more widespread also, but the opportunities here are crazy for sustainability in technology, in activism. you can create a community if you want to. You can find a community. You can find people who are interested in what you're interested in.
Yes.
The amount of conferences that you could go to over here and learn, the exposure that you can get is crazy.
Insane.
It might be on the surface, but it's crazy. And if you want to dig deeper, it's up to you.
Yeah. I agree. Like, even being from, like, I'm from, I already told you, I'm from an island in Texas. Like, there's no access there specifically. But that's why I chose Howard. Because, like, it's in D.C. and it'll give me access to, like, all of these other things. And that's where, but, like, my passion for sustainability wouldn't have stemmed from, like, just learning the surface level understanding of what sustainability means, what climate change means, what being an environmentalist means. Like, I learned that in my island. So, like, I can see what you mean by, like, having that disconnect with people who, like, are interested in sustainability,
Yes.
but don't even have, like, a true connection or understanding to why it's important.
Yes.